welcome to this special edition of Island Stat Sports Talk. I'm joined by Bermuda Olympic hopeful rower, Dara Alizadeh. That's how you say it?
Alizadeh. Yeah.
Alizadeh, yes, Alizadeh. Dara, well, first of all, welcome. We found out on the 17th, although we're just kind of working out you getting on here, that the region has announced dates for the Olympic qualifier, which will take place in Brazil. We knew it was supposed to take place in Brazil last time around, but March 4th through 6th. Obviously, there's still a lot of concern over in Brazil, like anywhere else in the world with the COVID, but do you push that aside and still prepare as if you have to go through this qualifier in order to make it to Tokyo?
Yeah, so I think initially I assumed that, you have to go through the qualifier. Like that's like assumption number one. In terms of it actually, whether it happens or not, that is less. That's less of a consideration, you know what I mean? Or rather, in terms of it happening on the March 4th to 6th date. Right. So they've said that on, I think, January 11th, they're going to confirm. Yeah. But the reality is that, like, the nominal reality is that is also subject to change. Like, you know what I mean? Like, things can switch on a dime as well. So that being said, all the, now that there is a tentative date, it's at least something that I can kind of work backwards from and set my training. Now I have a goal in mind. So whereas before it was, they told us somewhere between late February and late March, which, that's not, that's like, okay, it'll be sometime in the next 6 months, you know what I mean? Right. So now there's a date that's penciled in, and yeah, it doesn't really, it just gives me something to plan around, and it's less a motivational thing and more just like okay, like that's something that could happen, right. So I need to be ready for that eventual, that is a potential outcome that race occurs. So like, I'm going to be ready for that race. Right. So it's more about strategizing what I'm doing when, the kind of training build up I'm doing to, closer to the date, and, trying to get a peak on, those 3 days. Right.
Now you find out some months ago that the dates that they pushed out, end of February, end of March. What do you do in between there when you find out now there's dates actually announced? Because although you're getting ready and you've already indicated in a way that because you're not confirmed dates, you don't know when to push yourself into date of competition, because it's all strategized out to day of competition being at your peak. Isn't that right?
Yep. I think so. I try to keep it very simple in terms of the broad, I guess, the fundamental base parts. In that, the more time I spend in a boat, the better. And so that doesn't really hinge that much on like a very set date. I can spend a lot of time in a boat, and that's just willing myself to, that's up to me in terms of how much time I spend in a boat. The more nuanced point is being flexible, like the ability to be flexible and, switch on, it's like, if I got a month, okay. Like, it could kind of spring on you. It's just being ready for different outcomes and like accepting them. And so it's difficult to, ideally, I would know like a year in advance. I did know a year in advance. I knew, 2 years in advance what the date was, so I could gear everything up to that. The truth is, I don't, there's not a like concrete date in terms of like guaranteed this is what's going to happen. So there are things that I can do and should be doing irrespective of what, when the actual hard date is. So the key is just doing a lot of that. And the closer then you get to the date, then you can start then you can, the closer you get to that date and it's still on, the more likely it is that it's going to go through.
Right.
So that's, it's just about control. Like, I know I can control the things that I have to do. Like, no matter what, doing this, so like mileage in the boat, technical exercises and drills, that's good for, like, that's going to help me. And that, like, whether it's in March or, whenever. And that's mainly what I focus on. Like, that's, you know what I mean? It's like, it's as long as I just keep my routine going, that's, like that, like, I'll be okay. And the key is the thing that I always remind myself of, and others, is like, everyone's going through this.
Yes.
No one knows. No one's like, no one like has the crystal ball that says like, no, I know exactly when the date is and I'm like gearing mine perfectly. Everyone is sort of in the same boat, and it's up to each of us to say like how to best handle that. Because at the end of the day, like, it's going to happen. And, if you're not ready, you're not ready. And like, tough, what, like, right? Like, that's it. If you're not ready, like, no one's going to care. So right. It's like, it's just about, okay, like, this is the reality. Everyone's basically in the same boat. We all have our different, like, not hangups, but like our different challenges. Like, some places are in lockdown. When I was in lockdown, others weren't. When others were in lockdown, I wasn't. You know what I mean? So like, it's like the quote from The Dark Knight where the Joker's like, the thing about chaos, it's chaos. The thing about chaos, it's fair. Like, it's just like, you don't know, you know what I mean? Like, it's not favoring one person, favoring the other. It's just like, and how you deal with it, you just have to, like, so for me personally, I have to do, like, I'm like, okay, this is the situation for the next week, the next 2 weeks, the next month. I need to make sure that everything is in place for me to do what I need to do. That's the way I look at it. That's what I spend most of my time focusing on.
Right. Now, the last time we spoke, you were getting ready to head back over to the UK to do some training and some schooling, but you said you was going to spend a lot of time in the single boat, and hopefully you were still able to train beside your former teammates or your teammates. How has that worked out up until this point?
Yeah, so it's been very nice to train again. So I think when we last spoke, I think I had said that, like, training by yourself can just, like, when lockdown first started in March and I was the only person on the river, that was very hard. And so having other people just around, like, not even in singles, like, they were in bigger boats, like, so they were kind of doing their own thing. That was just nice to have other people around doing training towards a goal. And I could train with them on land, sort of. So, you know what I mean? We had like socially safe, socially distanced safe, if you know what I mean, set up in our gym. And that was good. The month of November in the UK was complete lockdown. So there was like nothing going on. But I, luckily, because I was in a single, I wasn't interacting with anyone, and you were allowed to go outside to engage in exercise. So I was allowed to continue rowing the single. And that was a bit more difficult to get myself up and going for, rowing 36K in a morning. But in the month of November, I got used to being able to go out and do, like a 22K row, come back to my car, because I couldn't go in the boathouse. I'd go into my car, like turn the heater on because it's very cold, and then and then go out for another short row. And I decided, I was like, okay, I'm not going to go out for another 22K row. Like if my teammates were here, maybe, but it's just not happening today. But you can go out and do something else that's productive. Doesn't take as much time, but just do some skills and skill and drill, we call it, like technical balance things, just comfort in the boat. And yeah, so that has made it a little bit easier. After November, I got used to just training by myself, and I handled that much better than I did initially back in like March and April. If not just for the having the river to myself, which means there's no wake. Like the other boats create wake and they bump the water around, whereas it was just complete blasts when I was out, and that was quite nice. So being again part of a team atmosphere again helps significantly in that regard.
Yeah, try to explain what it is like to row a race boat by yourself, because some people will, in Bermuda, we all think we all think we're the fastest swimmers, we think we're the fastest runners, we think we're the fastest rowers. But how technical is it trying to row a boat as fast as you possibly can over a long distance to try and qualify? Explain to us what that entails, because it's a lot of technical things that go along with it, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, yeah. So forget qualify, just to move a boat. Yeah. No, I'm just saying forget finish, just to move a boat from here to 100 meters.
Right.
So I think, so if anyone watches rowing who's not and that's fair. It's a lot of people, most people are not familiar with rowing, not just in Bermuda, just everywhere.
Right.
I mean, first they'll think it's they're like, oh, that's like kayaking. It's like, no. That's similar. We're on the water. We're in a boat, but that's about where and there's a paddle, there's an oar. That's about where the similarities end. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, especially in the single, there's a tremendous amount of technical skill that's necessary. It looks very easy when you watch it, because when you watch it, it's generally the high end rowing, which makes it look like as if you're sitting on a very stable, you know what I mean? It looks very stable. Like you're just like, oh, it's just I've been on the rowing machine before. Like you're just doing it on the water. But you're trying to balance something that's about this wide, 22 feet long, that's shaped like a bathtub, but that's only this wide, on a fluid surface. So it's not like your feet are standing on a platform on hard ground. It's on a fluid surface, and you're trying to get it to move as quickly as possible through the water. There's a significant amount of technical nuances that go into it. It's very challenging to get it really good. It's a really simple movement. I mean, it's just the same thing over and over again. So it's different than, I don't need to be these are how you describe different sports. I don't need to be agile like a football player, you know what I mean? Or can stop on a dime and do this and do that. It's very simple. Anyone who watches it will eventually get the pattern of what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. But to do it well that's why it takes years. I mean, it takes to get all the muscles firing in the right order, in the right time. All that takes a significant amount of time. And then not to mention, it's really hard. I think anyone who's tried the rowing machine for more than 5 minutes will get God, this sucks. This is really hard. And so then it's having to do all those technical bits when you are physically, you're toast.
Right.
And like there's the trade-offs between, some people, like, the harder they try, the more tense they get, and then it just it gets slower, and they try harder, you know what I mean? And so, but it's tough to describe, each technical bit, but there's a lot of pieces that go into it. And what I would say is that, some people might pick it up quicker than others. And if you have the opportunity, go try it out. Like, just, you'll see pretty quickly, like, how, like, oh, this feels really unstable.
Right.
And it's not as comfortable as it might look. But I think it like illuminates how impressive it is. It's like when we watch football and we see a free kick, and we see Ronaldo hitting to the top corner, you're like, I could probably do that. Like, you think, like, yeah, I could, like, he's just kicking the ball into the net. It's like, right. Yes, but no, we can't all do that. That's why, he's worked really hard for his whole life to be able to do that. So.
Right. Yeah. So given, if the event is still on schedule for March 4th through 6th, mm-hmm. how much time would you look to be in Brazil ahead of schedule to try and acclimatize, at least get some rowing on that course? Because it is a tricky course, where it starts, the middle is wide open, and then you finish in like a closed in area. But how much time would you need on that surface or that area to get yourself ready?
Well, I think the limiting factor is not going to be a matter of need. It's going to be a matter of, like, what we're allowed to do. So I think, we haven't, I guess on the 11th, we'll find out more details. Right. But the previous date, so when it was originally in January, and they said this is the date, the information they gave along with it was that we were not, like, normally there's a camp before. Right. Yes. The qualifier, and they said there's going to be no camp. And considering that we are, this is all speculative, but considering we are going to be in the FISA organized hotel, and all the FISA is going to be, all the FISA, the transport and the food and the this and the that, having us there might not be, it really depends on the situation, but it doesn't sound like they're going to be wanting us to be there for 2 weeks beforehand, just because that increase, having us there for 2.5 weeks as opposed to just 4 days. Right. Liability wise is a huge, there's a big difference there. And so, I obviously I would like to have a lot of time on that water. But I'll take what I can get, and if I can't, like, okay, like that's the reality, and if I can find something that works for me, well, I'll have to. So I will find something that works for me.
Right. How do you move your boat around? How would you move that boat from the UK to a place like Brazil?
So currently I am rowing a boat by a manufacturer called Hudson. Mm-hmm. So Hudson is a Canadian boat manufacturer, and they've been great. And part of rowing a Hudson and being part of the Hudson team group is that they have some shells down in South America. And being a Hudson athlete, I am allowed to use one of those shells. So it won't be a matter of, and it's the exact same mold. It's the exact same, style of boat. Right. So it's just a matter of taking my measurements that I have for my boat in the UK. So, where my feet are, where where the rigger is on the boat, there are different options for that. What my how far apart my oarlocks are. So, like the spread, how, like the pitch angle. It doesn't matter. The different technical aspects of the boat. Just measuring all those, and then just taking it to the boat that will be ideally waiting for me in Brazil, and then putting all those measurements on. and trying to replicate to the best, that it's the same exact shit, it's the same mold shell. And so that, that way it just minimizes any having transitioned into a different kind of boat.
Right. Now, as I indicated, I was in Brazil for 2016. They're going to use the same area, coming out of like a calm, closed-in area into a wide open area where it can get a bit breezy if the wind is shifting from one place to another, and then you finish inside of another closed-in area. How does that work into your ability to prepare? Because it's almost like you have 3 races inside of 1 race due to conditions.
So I think I said this last time, it's just about practicing in those conditions and trying to replicate those conditions. So luckily, the place that I train in the UK can get very windy. I don't like going out on that water. I really don't. It's not nice. But I still will go out in it, and just, they're pretty miserable rows, but you learn, it really makes sure that you're doing it right, because you can get over it. You can clear the water. Your blades won't catch on the waves. And yeah, it's just something that has to be done, and you have to practice. So it's just spending the time in different situations. There have been a couple times when it's been snowing, and I said to myself, like, I'm pretty sure, I don't think this is going to happen in Rio, but like, you never know. Always be ready.
Possible, right?
Anything's possible. Yeah. I'm not going to be the poor sap who doesn't know how to row in the snow when it's rowing on the finals day.
When you look at how this pandemic has affected the world globally, and of course in South America, they're having just as a tough time as everyone else, but you don't get much information coming out of places like Brazil and Chile and those places. But are you trying to find out as much information as you can before you even venture that way?
Yeah, I mean, I am always trying to know, like, learn as much as I can about the situation. For example, I will check so on Google you can type in a country and coronavirus, and it puts out a number, and whether those numbers are accurate, that's not the point. It's more just like I check it every day just to see how everything is going. In terms from like visa and stuff, I don't tend to go fishing. The reality is, I don't think they know. Right. And again, that is not that's not something I really trouble myself with. Like, information is obviously good, but stressing about it is like, that's just like added stress that I don't need. And so, when it comes up, when like information is presented, I can make it's not that, I think it's not that productive to just say like, this is what I think is going, you know what I mean? Like, to really be like, oh, what if this happens? What if that happens? What if again, it's just bringing it back to, what do I need to do? Like, irrespective of what's happening, I should still be doing a lot of mileage. I should still be practicing a lot in my boat. I should still be working hard. I should still be lifting weights. I should still be doing, mobility and core and this and that, and like just objectively good things. Right. And when information comes, then you make a decision about it. And like, it's like, okay, this is what FISA says, or this is what, I don't have anyone on the inside. I wish that would be nice, but that, like, again, even if I did, I don't think they know. Like, you know what I mean? I think, so I don't know how valuable that would be. And it's not something that's within my control. So I don't really, I don't give it too much, I don't let it stress me out that much.
Right. Well, the 11th is the day they'll confirm whether or not March 4th through 6th will be the dates of the event. But on the 12th, they will have a Q&A giving information about, I guess, the scheduling and all that. What are some of the things you want to know about the event? Because everybody wants to know what time will be their qualifier. Everybody wants to know what time, they have to be there, the travel distance and all that. But what's some of the things you want to know in the lead up to that event?
That's a good question. Well, okay. So I think there are some basic questions like that, which I assume they'll put out, like the information for which, like the really, what are the times, what are the, like, when's the heat, when's the this, when's the that, do the rules stay the same in terms of qualification? But again, I assume those will all be somewhat uniform, or at least they'll announce that if there's a change to that. I think that would be kind of priority number, like after saying that it's confirmed, priority number 2 is to say these are what the rules are. I think specifically for me, what the questions I would have would be, what do we need to do logistically to get down there? So I have the added challenge of, everyone else, most of my competitors are in South America, and it's just a quick skip and a jump, and they're in Rio, whereas I have to get from the UK to Rio. But that's, okay, I got to sort that out. And I would ask them so FISA and the IOC, they work together, and for smaller rowing countries and federations, they assist with these sorts of things, which I'm very thankful for. But I would just say, okay, what are the details for that? Like, what do I need to do? Who do I need to talk to? Whatever, and what are the dates and deadlines to get that in? And so that would be kind of the logistical standpoint. The next would be, when's the earliest I can get there? So that's like the whole thing about practicing on the course. What opportunities are there going to be for practicing on the course? Yeah, and I guess beyond that, I think all my questions about the event are going to be answered before I think even anyone asks questions about it. The only other question I think I would have would be, what is the possibility, or is there still a chance that you could pull the plug? Like, which, you know what I mean? Like, this is a confirmation, because if it's not confirmed, they can't then say, yeah, I don't think they can say yes then. Like, it's going to happen. Whereas if they said, yes, it's going to happen, is there still a clause in here that says, yes, we're still going to pull the plug? And if that happens, what is the next step? Like, what can you preemptively tell us if, you know what I mean? Like, so just making, like, if you go down the tree of options, basically filling that out, saying, we have to, if something happens and the situation turns for the worse, this is what we'll tell you, and this is the next date that we'll know. That would be the one thing I've said I've been mildly frustrated with, is the lack of information. And even if it was just to say we don't know because the situation is so fluid, that's fair enough. But not saying that, you know what I mean? And I totally understand that it's everyone agrees and acknowledges that it's a very difficult situation. It's the not being in constant communication with us. I don't care about everyone else with me, that about what's going on. Like, this meeting is happening, and like, this is hopefully the outcome of this. You know what I mean? Just stuff like that, so we know, we can have an idea of when the next set of information comes in, and again, all logistical stuff that, like, I would rather not have to think about, but being a one man boat, you have to. And so and those would probably be the questions I have. So basic logistical questions about the regatta itself. How, when can I get there? How can I get there? And is there still a chance that you still pull the plug?
Yeah. Well, we'll wait until January 12th when that Q&A is over and done with, because the 11th will be confirmation. The 12th will be Q&A, and I'm pretty sure some people have a lot of questions whether or not they still want to take part in it or let this one go by the wayside. But we'll get back in touch with you after the 12th and see how things are going. And you have a safe and Merry Christmas. And when you're back on the water in cold UK, you just say, I'm doing this because I want to be in Tokyo.
Oh yeah, no, that's the only reason. That's yeah. If anyone like, it's funny. You know, it's funny. I've heard this several times when people say like, oh, like how do you keep yourself training? It's like, because I want to win. Like, what kind of question is that? Like I wasn't like, oh, like yeah, that's a silly question. Like,
Winners never quit.
yeah, it's
Winners
like I
never
guess I
quit.
want to win. What are you talking about? Yeah, no, and yeah, but yeah, thank you very much. Merry Christmas to you as well, and keep staying safe as well. And
All right.
yeah, I'll hopefully we'll chat again after we know tomorrow on the 11th.
Okay. All right. Well, enjoy your Christmas. Okay.
Yes, thank you. You
Have a great
too.
one. Okay. Bye.